Hi, everyone. It's Rachel Colosino, your Inspired Intentions podcast co-host. This episode was pre-recorded ahead of everything that's happening in the world today, but we felt like it was an important topic to still bring to you. Now more than ever, it is important to move your body. Movement will help you feel less stressed. Movement will help you just feel better overall. We're here to help. Please tune in to our Facebook page every day at 9 a.m. Eastern for our movement streak, or tune in weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern for our live classes. And of course, all of the resources that are available 24/7 on skyterraathome.com. From all of us at Skyterra, we wish you peace, and most of all, we wish you health.
Welcome to the Inspired Intentions podcast with Skyterra Wellness. If you've been too busy and not taking care of yourself, it's time to reset habits and plunge into your new normal. I'm your host, Jeff Ford, and I'm joined today with my co-host, Rachel Colosino.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey.
Hi. I'm really excited about today's topic.
This is a great topic because we've spoken about this, and I think it's going to be really interesting for our listeners to understand who they actually are.
Yeah, and I think if I could say one thing about this podcast before we get started is I'm hoping that we'll be able to change minds about how you think about yourself. And so I think it's a really important podcast.
Yeah, I think sometimes the story we write is the story that we will live.
I like
and
that.
So it's really important that we write a story that is truly who we are and who we can be, so that we're not kind of putting boundaries.
No limits.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a guest today.
Oh my gosh, we do.
It is the tallest guest we've ever had.
Oh my gosh. This definitely is the tallest guest now that I just peered over
That's right.
and see what's going down.
So we're super happy to be here with Mitchell Wendling. Hi, Mitchell.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome to Inspired Intentions.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We are very ecstatic to have you.
Yeah, we really are.
As am I.
So Mitchell is Skyterra's health and fitness specialist. And because we like double titles, he's also the intern coordinator. And he is also, how tall are you, Mitchell?
I am 6'6".
6'6".
Incredible.
Yep.
You know how people they always overestimate their height? You know, no one's ever
you always round up.
I'm 5'8", when they're really 5'11". You know,
Right.
it never happens.
Right.
Because I'm 5'11", and as long as I'm around people I don't know, I'm like 6 feet. And usually they actually give me that same response sometimes. Mm-hmm. Just depends on the crowd. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting.
You know, the other thing is that the taller you are,
Mm-hmm.
the less people are able to judge how tall you are.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm 6'6". I've been called, are you 7 foot?
Unbelievable.
You know how
so
far
they
off
scale
7
really,
Right.
They scale even further.
Do you know
up.
how far off 7 foot
Has this
is from
happened
6?
with any of our guests? Like, do they try to guess how tall you are?
They usually just go straight for it. Hey, how tall are you?
They go right out of the gates.
But
And it's kind of a personal question.
It
isn't
is.
It?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually don't tell them. I make them guess.
You do?
Yeah.
What's the response? Is it like, how tall do you think I am? Is that what you ask?
Yeah. But not that creepy.
Yeah.
But honestly, most people don't aim high at Skyterra. Most people shoot low. They're like, 6'2".
Wow.
I'm like, you're gonna disrespect me?
Yeah. Man, especially in that initial interaction.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, you should overestimate
What's the second question people ask you?
after how tall you are.
At work?
Yeah.
Usually, where are you from?
Oh, yeah. That's a common
pretty
question.
basic, yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
ask you if you play basketball?
Oh, you're right. So
Does that come?
it's either basketball or swimming usually.
Swimming.
Oh.
Interesting. I didn't
Yeah.
know. So all the best swimmers, they're usually really tall.
I mean, I think they're just long limbed and pretty lean. Like
Okay.
they see Michael Phelps and they're
Yeah.
like, that's all swimmers.
Gotcha. So they get more power out of each stroke
Hmm.
because of
Right.
those longer limbs. I get
Yeah.
it. I used to be a triathlete.
Really, Jeff?
Yeah. Yeah. And I do have long limbs. And I was a
You do
I was
have
a
long
great
limbs.
swimmer.
Yeah.
Swimming and running.
Did you have a swim background coming?
I did not. However, I am sneaky fast in the water.
I believe it.
And I just wanted to make sure our listeners knew.
I heard they called you the
probably come up.
fish.
I was the fish.
Wow.
Yeah. I definitely could hold my own, you know, in a lake or in a pond wherever I decided to swim, I could do it. So anyways, enough about me.
Does it always come back to you, Jeff?
It does quite a bit. So we'll keep it rolling because this guest is important, and I think maybe we should introduce the topic.
Yeah. So let's talk about the topic. I mean, we've talked about on this podcast before, we've used the word athlete, and the definition of athlete, at least as far as we're concerned, is if you move your body, you're an athlete. Mm-hmm. And so I think sometimes folks think, oh, I'm not an athlete. I just go to the gym, or I just walk, or I don't do that. But if you move your body, you're an athlete. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to Mitchell not only about his career being an athlete, but maybe how that translates to folks and how we can help people start to think about themselves in a different way.
You ready to get after it, Mitchell?
I'm excited.
All right.
Great.
Awesome.
So Mitchell, did you play basketball?
I did. Thanks for asking.
Will you tell us about that?
Yeah. I'm not sure when I started playing basketball, but I started taking it serious once I was fairly young. I realized I was a lot taller than most kids. So I've always been fairly tall. I know in 8th grade, I hit 6 foot in 8th grade.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh. I feel like you probably got a lot of friends because you were tall. They'd probably come up to you for protection and all sorts
and
of
then they
things.
get to know me, and then they are like sadly mistaken. So I'm not like, this mean guy. Or whatever, but, so yeah, I hit 6 foot, and I was going into high school, and all I knew was that I wanted to be on the varsity team. And I figured having the height advantage that I did for my age would help.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where I really almost transitioned from baseball, because I loved baseball.
Ooh.
But I transitioned into basketball. Not exclusively, but I put more time and effort into that.
Makes sense.
In high school.
I played baseball. I was terrible. I just liked wearing the pants.
Yeah, I peaked at probably like 7th grade.
Yeah, I was like
Yeah.
killer at 6th grade. Like what do they call it? Little League.
Oh.
I killed it at Little League.
Yeah.
I was definitely like batting number 4. And then you get to high school, you're like riding the bench. It's an odd experience.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about my high school baseball career. So yeah, high school basketball, at least, that's where I really started to focus in on it. And then really towards my junior year in high school, I knew that I wanted to play collegiately. So then I even locked in even more.
When you say that you took it seriously and that you locked in, what does that mean? I mean, how much time did you spend? What did it look like, for a teenager?
Yeah. So I did more than just, go to practice during season. So typically I would go before school. I had some really cool teachers that I would consider my mentors as well, who kind of confide or kind of just saw in me that I wanted to succeed.
They gave you like an extra level of support.
Totally.
Yeah, to kind of take those extra steps.
Yeah, and so they would open the gym for me. Sometimes other people will, but they didn't just let it open for anyone. So they would like ask you like, hey, if you want to come in, let me know. And so that started happening. So we'd go in. I'm not sure on the exact time. If school started at 8, I'd say we were there 6:30. Wow. Maybe 7.
That's a lot of discipline for a teenager.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, that was mainly once I could drive. My mom, she'd be like, I'm not taking you to school. Maybe she did. I don't know.
Shout out Mitchell's mom.
Shout out mom. I love my mom. So that happened, and that's just kind of a little extra, as well as after school.
Did you start to incorporate strength training in addition to your basketball skills?
See, the funny thing is, in high school, no.
Just basketball?
Oh, yeah. This is an interesting story, because I think like you had an evolution as an athlete that helps you really understand our guest perspective sometimes, specifically when it comes to strength training.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit more on that and how that evolved? Yeah,
I'd love to. So really, the way I like to put it is you had to pay me to be in the actual physical gym to lift weights.
Oh, wow.
Did not like any aspect of it whatsoever. So I was what you call one of those extrinsic motivators. So I really would only work out my senior year if A, we did for basketball or if we had to, and B, for a grade for our PE class.
Oh, wow.
You would never catch me in there before, after school, nothing.
So you were relying on those external reasons.
Did it simply to get an A.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you understood that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Maybe I didn't at the time, but now
you do,
totally,
reflecting back on
totally.
it. And I think that's important with motivation and fitness, for sure.
And it's really weird because of all my close friends, I have, 4 or 5 close friends from high school I still talk to on pretty regularly. But they're all big into football and weightlifting, and that's like what they did. And I was kind of I wouldn't call myself the outcast of the group, but I wasn't into that. So kind of towards my senior year, they brought me into it after basketball season, after I knew I was going to go to college. But fast forward, going to play at college, I realized that I was guarding a lot of guys much taller, believe it or not.
Oh, really? Wow.
Wow.
In the basketball world, 6'6" is pretty average.
Where did you go to college, Mitchell?
So out of high school, I went to Carl Sandburg College. It's a junior college in Galesburg, Illinois. So I went there. I realized that I was going to be facing the guys a lot taller as well as stronger than me. And so that's kind of the point where I knew that I had to get into the gym and put on some weight, some size, a little bit of bulk.
And so what you getting into the gym, was that kind of a step that you felt like would make you more competitive and kind of match up to the different level that you were going to be playing?
Right. Because in high school, you can kind of get away with being the tall kid. Especially I was in a fairly small school, so there were guys taller than me for sure, but a lot of times I was the tallest or close to the tallest, so you can kind of get away with that.
Yeah. I could always get away with being the fast guy, you know, with a little less training.
Pretty fast, Jeff.
Like when you show, like, you've done the Boston Marathon, right?
Twice.
You show up at the Boston Marathon and then you finally realize that there's like thousands of people faster than you.
Yes, way faster.
Yeah. I think it's similar to this experience that you're like, whoa, these are like the best of the best.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dang.
That's when I really started taking it serious. So at junior college level, we didn't necessarily have the structure to lift. So we weren't made to like mandatory.
There wasn't a program.
Right. We didn't have a strength and conditioning coach. So this was all just me going out of my way, like learning it on my own. So honestly, what I did, I would literally get on like bodybuilding.com.
Classics.
Right. I would get on there, find workouts. I'd go to the gym, do them. But it was kind of like my second home. Like I spent a lot of time in there. So if to be honest, I went into my freshman year of college at 200 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And literally a year later, I was 220.
Wow. Dang. And mostly from the strength training. So it was a lot of muscle build.
Right.
Okay.
It wasn't the freshman 15 that you're familiar with.
Understandable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but that's kind of like led me to where I am today. So I'm fairly similar body composition today. I don't know. But I usually fluctuate around 220, 225 now. But really that first year in college where I took it serious is kind of like set me up for where I am now.
That's cool.
And I just want to say that Mitchell just recently became a certified strength and conditioning specialist, which is CSCS, which is difficult to attain for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't easy.
Yeah, studied for a long time for that.
I did.
And what I like about that certification, it's very movement focused. So it's not just about, the exercise physiology or the programming side of things. Like you actually have to test out on how the body should be moving. Like there's a bunch of videos when you're taking the test, correct? Yeah,
there's two portions. There's a scientific foundations portion. It's basically all your physiology, knowing, your bones, what happens.
Kinesiology, all that stuff.
Right. And then the second portion is the applied portion. So it's a lot of videos, like they'll play a video and you'll say, you got to answer what's wrong or does anything need corrected at all.
You have to like see the faults like immediately.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, that's great, Mitchell.
Thank you.
It's great for Skyterra too.
Yeah. He's the most qualified fitness person on staff now. I'm so excited for that.
Experience counts for you too, Jeff.
It does. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah.
I'm sensitive.
I know you are.
This is great.
You have a couple years on.
Yeah.
So Mitchell, continue to take us through your college career. So you're building strength. You're seeing the benefits. Well, what benefits did you see in your sport after you built that strength for the first year?
Yeah. Sports specifically, really just being able to hold my own at my position. So kind of the theme of my basketball career, I've always been on not necessarily the biggest team, so I've always been forced to play either the 4-man or a 5-man. So it's basically like the big man on the team.
So you've always played big.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got the guy who's always played big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But with that, you always have to guard the biggest guy on the other team. So, I've had to guard anywhere people from, shorter than me all the way up to 7'2", as well as people who are, 6'9", 6'10", and just jack stocky,
No joke.
have a lot of weight on me. So just by adding that weight just helped me, hold my own in the post. And I took a lot of pride in doing that, actually. Like, defense is what I love to do.
Oh, wow.
So I loved.
I like seeing a good block.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's always like when you see the stats, I think blocks mean more.
Well, we could debate on that, but they do look cool.
We could, yeah.
And it gets the crowd going,
It's not all about the point scores.
No.
Not in life either. It's not who scores the most points.
Defense wins championships, right?
Yep.
It's deep, guys. It's deep.
You see that?
But no, I think the cool thing is, I transferred. So I went to the JUCO for 2 years. And just side note, we were the first team in my JUCO in school history to go to the national tournament.
Junior college?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wow, did he just start speaking a different language?
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. It's abbreviation.
Thanks, Rachel. She's our editor.
Thanks, Rachel. So that was super cool. I was kind of like on a high from that. And I was blessed enough to actually get another scholarship to move on and play for my junior and senior year. And that's kind of where I really fell in love with the strength and conditioning.
And where was that, Mitchell?
Central Methodist University in Missouri. So there we had a strength and conditioning coach. Shout out Coach Obi.
Hey, Coach Obi.
Hey, Coach.
Thank you.
Yeah. He's because that was my first experience with a strength and conditioning coach. And you just kind of, he's just kind of like, I wouldn't say he's a typical strength coach, but all strength coaches kind of have, you got to have a couple criteria. You got to be bald. You have to have a beard, and just be super wired.
Did he have all three of those?
He had really short hair. He wasn't bald, but he was definitely always wired. Didn't matter how early it was. Just brought a lot of energy. So yeah, that's kind of where just like the passion he brought to our sessions every time was awesome. That's kind of just where I really had appreciation for the profession and kind of how I could see myself doing something similar to that once I graduated.
That's cool. It's almost like this guy had more of a plan around what you were doing. And so I think that's interesting. Do you think that's translated over to like your world now? Like, do you tend to go in with a plan, whether it's for yourself or when you're working with guests?
Totally. So this kind of plays into our topic. So if you think of from our experience as basketball athletes, he had to bring us in. We have maybe a 45-minute time frame. So we have 45 minutes to get in, get our work done, and get out, but still getting the most bang for our buck as well as enhancing our athletic performance.
Yeah. 45 minutes.
For your warm-up and your strength workout.
Yeah.
And how many folks were in there at the same time?
So this would just be our team. So anywhere from 12 to 15 guys, 12 to 15 athletes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
be very efficient with that schedule.
Right.
Gotcha.
So you must have learned how to run an efficient lifting program or how to run an efficient lifting session.
Right. So at the time, like I said, I was pretty brand new. So I was just I didn't understand it all. But now that I look back at it, I'm like, wow, there really was a method to the madness.
That's cool.
So because going from where I was before that, I was just, bodybuilding only. This is what I do. When in reality, that's not necessarily enhancing my basketball game.
Yeah, it wasn't helping you for that specific goal.
Right.
And I think that's so important when it comes to anyone who's working out or only has 45 minutes. You want to do things that are going to enhance you very quickly towards that goal. Right.
Yeah, so whatever your goal is, you definitely want to get the most bang for your buck and do what's going to achieve that goal the fastest, So yeah, coming from that mindset to where Coach Obi was and doing stuff I've never even done before, Olympic lifts were new to me, doing Olympic lifts,
Can you describe for our listeners what you mean by Olympic lifts?
Yeah, Olympic lifts, those are going to be like your barbell movements that you'll see. So stuff like a snatch, a clean.
So a snatch is where the bar starts on the ground and finishes overhead.
Right, right.
Versus the clean where it starts on the ground and finishes at your shoulders.
Correct. Yeah.
They're very difficult and complex moves.
Yeah, they involve your entire body.
Right. Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
No, you're totally right. They are full body.
And I think it's cool. So you got exposure to these more complex moves and just started learning that there was a different way of lifting than just like bench pressing and squatting.
Totally.
Which I think is important for like in our programming at Skyterra. We're not just, doing power lifts. We actually will do some Olympic lifts with dumbbells and start folks there. And maybe it's just with a 5-pound dumbbell. Most people start to learn how to, touch 5 pounds to the ground and bring it overhead. It's really inspiring.
Yeah, and they might not see that as being, or we might not see that as being a huge deal, but to them, that's like a foreign concept to them, and they just completed it. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. How your experience that you've had as an athlete, and then of course through just earning your CSCS, how does that translate when you're working with guests who have never done any kind of strength training before? What's usually the first thing that you say to them to make that more accessible?
I think for the main thing is I would encourage form over the amount of weight you're lifting.
Proper movement.
Right. So, a lot of folks, you want to just get straight to the heavy stuff. When in reality, that's not always the best case.
I think we see both sides too. There's usually that individual who wants to go right for it.
True.
And then there's some folks who are like, oh, no weight at all.
True.
So it's how do you meet both those people where they are?
Totally. I think just really watching how they move and then correcting that early just to set them up for success, even at Skyterra within the rest of the week or even once they leave Skyterra, just so they're better off.
So they feel more confident in how they're moving.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do you see that, Mitchell, as you're working with guests? Do you see them build confidence, even if they're only at Skyterra for a week, as they're able to see what their bodies are able to do?
I'd say almost daily. Almost daily. And it's actually very powerful and awesome to see. And it can be literally anything, which is a cool thing. Maybe someone has trouble sitting in a chair or can't sit down without pain. And maybe Jeff or myself kind of checks out their movement pattern and just puts them in a better position. And then, something so simple, but, it's kind of foreign to them that like, wow, that never even crossed my mind. And now even by the end of the week, maybe they can sit down in a chair without having to use the handrails, something like that. And that's just one example, but
that's a great example because it's something all of us do. Yeah. Even our executive producer
really
sits and stands. Really? Yeah. It's wild.
Poor Alan.
So do you, I think we spoke about how putting them in a different position, them building on their movement pattern starts to get them building confidence, which is so important in creating change. Is there a reason why you think many of our guests start out with not being that confident, like not thinking they're an athlete per se?
Good question.
Any thoughts around that of why the confidence is lacking and why they may not see themselves as an athlete?
One thing that definitely comes to mind is just the presence of social media these days.
Oh yeah.
It's so readily available. You can go on any, Facebook's huge, Instagram's huge, even Twitter, anything.
Do you guys Snapchat?
I don't.
Do you Snapchat, Mitchell?
I do.
You do?
Do you, Jeff?
No, I've always wanted to learn, but I feel like I missed it. I missed it generationally.
I'll teach you after this.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
I got you.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
Coming soon, Jeff Ford on Snapchat.
Yes. All right, keep going.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, so with all the social media that's just readily available, you're immersed in all this stuff, whether good or bad, that you think, if this person's doing it, I should be able to do that. So
it's almost like these false expectations,
exactly,
I think, are out there.
Right.
And especially when you're starting to move your body again, you don't have the confidence you once did.
Right.
And that's something I think we hear a lot is many of our guests just want to get that ability to do back, to get back to those things they 100%. Used to do. And so it's like reality, like the world we live in, kind of makes it hard, makes it intimidating
It is intimidating.
to maybe even think like an athlete.
Yeah.
Because you see like everybody else doing all these other things. And you're like, I should be doing that.
Yeah. Especially the photos people post.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, they can really be deceptive.
100%. And I think another thing is it's the process of getting to that point. So if they see something on Instagram that they think is super cool that they might not be able to do, but they want to, maybe they try it and fail right away because it's on Instagram. It's probably something completely useless and hard, but maybe it's cool to them. They want to try it. But it's a process. So maybe they're kind of missing that starting point to build onto it, you know, to get to the end goal, if that makes sense.
That's really enlightening. I think it's where like in order to be an athlete and to think like an athlete, not every athlete started out from the 3-point line.
Right.
You know, you're probably trying to take some shots a little closer before you go all the way to like half court, for instance.
It's a nice metaphor, Jeff.
Yeah, I figured, you know, basketball,
Keep it basketball.
6'6" guest on our podcast kind of made sense, right?
Yeah.
And and also with being an athlete, I think it's how you move your body, but also with consistency. Okay, so to get better at anything, you need repetitions, right?
Yep.
So you can't just expect to be, you know, elite, whatever it is, after the first try. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you don't want to do too much right out of the gates, and then you have to be consistent on like a daily basis, kind of like Rachel and I's run streak.
Yeah, how's that going?
Still in it. Still going.
Yep.
Still pushing.
Can you elaborate on like why people may think they can't do it, like from an athlete perspective? So I'm just learning to stand up from a chair again. I'm starting to learn different positions. Is there any reasons outside of what we've talked about of why people might not see themselves there yet?
I think a lot of it starts in the head, in their heads. To be honest, you know, because you can talk your way into anything, you can talk yourself out of anything. Just kind of playing off that. Yeah, if you're, you know,
they maybe they've maybe lost the belief in themselves sometimes, and that like kind of it creates a kind of that obstacle.
So it's kind of like you said, maybe they were able to do something 2 years ago, they can't do it anymore. They try it, they fail, and they think to themselves, well, I'm never going to be able to do that again, so there's no point in trying.
Yeah. And I even know folks are scared to get up and down from the ground, and that's something that like we really believe that everybody deserves that fundamental human right to like have the confidence to get up and down from the ground.
The function of it.
Yeah.
What about the words that we tell ourselves, Mitchell? Like you were saying, you know, you can talk yourself into anything, you can talk yourself out of anything. If you start thinking of yourself as an athlete, is that going to change your approach?
I think so. If you think of what the general population thinks of an athlete, you know, they're probably thinking of college athlete, pro athlete.
They're thinking of Mitchell.
Probably not Mitchell. Probably not Mitchell. But if you think of it from that aspect, you know, they see themselves as just elite in their sport, as well as the weight room, as well as just in life in general, probably due to, you know, how lucrative pro sports are. So I think by seeing yourself as becoming an athlete or being an athlete, you kind of, I won't say get that same persona, but, you know, you just kind of get this different vibe about you that
yeah,
you know what
that
I mean?
swagger, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
I think that's a good word for this. Is like a lot of people lose their mojo. If you haven't been working out in a long time, you know, the confidence is down, but even how the words you're saying to yourself aren't what you used to say yourself maybe those couple of years ago.
Yeah. And you think about what an athlete eats or how an athlete hydrates themselves or how much time they spend sleeping. I mean, you're going to start to maybe change habits in a different way as well.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about athletes is there's more specifics around it. And I think when it comes to us living our best life and, you know, having the habits we want to lead in place, it's really important to kind of have the consistency, like Mitchell was talking about, to have a plan around what that's going to look like specifically in the beginning.
Yeah.
Totally.
So let's talk about the beginning. So you've already said the first step, which is even just thinking about yourself using the word athlete. You know, I move my body, getting up out of the chair. I'm an athlete. And so then you said the second step, which was making sure that your movement patterns are correct, that you're going to be safe in your movement and
quality.
Yeah. And I just want to give a shout out to Skyterra at home. We have a lot of great movement demos on that website that people can start to look through. What would you say? So Mitchell, now I'm thinking of myself as an athlete. I know how to move. What's my next step?
I would say just to buy in. With that, so what I mean.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, what I mean by that is
You got very passionate there. That was awesome.
He's a passionate guy.
I know.
Right.
This is great.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, so just buy into whatever your goal is. So like we said for athletes, we'll just keep with the basketball reference. If you think of any NBA player, their goal was probably to reach the NBA. Same with any, just example for a guest at Skyterra, maybe their goal is to run a 5K. And just buy into that and stay committed for the long haul. And don't get in your head and give up when it gets hard, or if you miss a day or whatever it is, because even athletes have hardships.
Oh yeah.
Right. So it's not all just smooth sailing and whatever for athletes. They go through hardships as well.
Oh yeah.
Do you have
Go ahead. Sorry.
We're both very excited.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Do you have a suggestion on when things do get tough, how to make sure that you keep moving towards your goal despite the hardships? Like write it down or, think about it in a different way?
Honestly, I think for me personally would be to have a friend group or a close group to help
support.
You. Right, for support. For me, like I said, I go back to those 4 or 5 friends that I have from high school that no matter what the issue is, whether it's work, sports, you name it, I can always call them and they might BS me a little bit, but by the end of the
keep you humble,
right? By the end of the conversation, though, we've had a thoughtful conversation. They'll get me back on track, and I'll be back like I never skipped a beat.
So it almost sounds like that support keeps you bought in.
Totally,
having the right people around you that kind of are like-minded.
Exactly, they
can be crucial.
Similar goals. They're very driven. Yeah,
and I think we see that at Skyterra too. Yeah. When guests come for a week, like they don't all have the same story or the same goals that they're looking to achieve, but it unites them that they're going after it and they're taking the steps to be bought in as you're explaining.
Yeah.
Mitchell, is there a power in breaking up goals into smaller bites? So you have your big goal, like say you've never run before and you want to run a 5K. Is there power in making smaller goals on the way to that bigger goal?
Totally, 100%. What I would say about that is basically you deserve to be congratulated along the way as well. So
I like that.
Yeah. So if you think about a pro athlete, for example, they get awards or get congratulated at the end of the season for whatever that award is. You scored the most points this year, here's an award.
Or the most blocks.
There you go.
Nice, Jeff.
Yeah.
Nice. So same with all of us athletes here, maybe if I want to run a 5K, maybe I'll start by running a mile or, somewhere along. My first goal would be running a mile without stopping. And eventually, after maybe a couple of weeks, I get to that point. Congratulate yourself.
Celebrate it.
Right.
I think that's crucial.
Totally.
It's like you have to recognize the steps you're taking along the way to reaching that inevitable outcome.
And that's just going to make you appreciate it more by the end of it,
Yeah.
But yeah, once you get that first goal, maybe you have another goal in mind that's not quite that end goal, not quite that 5K. Next, I want to run 1.5 miles without stopping, then 2 miles, and just congratulate yourself along the way. And I think that'll just actually keep everything
moving in the right direction.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. What about when you finally reach your big goal? What would you say? Of course, celebrate it.
Yeah, totally. Like when you put on the 15, 20 pounds, like you got the muscle going, like did you do anything in particular there?
I didn't say, awesome, I gained 20 pounds. No.
Yeah.
I was happy by, just because I saw how it helped me in my athletic performance. But then I knew that wasn't the end.
Yeah, you kept going.
Right. I knew I couldn't just stop going into the gym because, I got my 20 pounds. I met my goal. Now I can just go sit on the couch and do whatever. No. So then then you make different goals. Well, maybe I want to increase my vertical jump. So then I started focusing on that a little more.
I think there's a lot of our guests that might want to work on that. You
Really?
never know. You
The
never
vertical
know.
jump,
That's
yeah.
why we talk about it on the
Skyterra
Inspired
basketball
Intentions
team.
podcast.
Vertical jump. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's transferable.
Got to get them on those Olympic lifts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be the next step.
Oh, yeah.
So what you're saying is like you always kind of find that new thing
Yeah.
that's a little bit more out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's like Rachel and I can relate to that, where we used to train for races.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we were training for those races, I don't think it was actually about the race.
It's never about the race.
No.
That's true. That's a good
Mm-mm.
point.
It's not.
That's a good point.
And I think like the act of like becoming an athlete is thinking like an athlete.
Oh, 100%.
And being like, okay, I'm going to do this 5K, and anyone who of course is going after a 5K is an athlete. They have something out there. So
Right.
that's kind of how I would define it, is
Yeah.
someone who's an athlete. They not only move their body, but they know why they're moving their body and where by moving their body that's going to take them.
I like that.
I like it too, Jeff.
Thank you.
Wow.
We miss anything, Mitchell?
I don't think so. I really enjoyed this talk, though.
We liked having you on.
Yeah, this was
You
fun.
guys are awesome.
We're going to definitely do this again.
So I think it's important to summarize.
Sure.
So first of all, let's do steps for all of our listeners. If you haven't been exercising, if you haven't been moving your body, but most importantly, if you haven't been thinking about yourself as an athlete, first step, you are. So start to think about yourself as an athlete. Second step is make sure that you're moving your body correctly. Make sure that you're moving your body safely. Skyterra@home.com can definitely help with that.
Shout out.
Shout out. Third step, you want to buy into your goal. So set your goal, be really intentional about it. Find your support system like Mitchell's friends. And maybe break that goal. You got to shout out, Mitchell.
Shout out.
He was holding back. I could see it.
I was.
Break your goal up into smaller bites so that you can get that congratulations along the way.
Yeah.
To keep yourself focused, to keep yourself moving. And then when you reach your goal, find the next big thing. Think big. But again, keep breaking it up into smaller bites. Did we miss anything?
I love that.
Awesome. We miss anything, Jeff?
No, I think your summary was beautiful.
Great. Thanks so much for being on, Mitchell.
Thank you for having me. You
Thanks,
two are
Mitchell.
awesome.
Appreciate you.
The Inspired Intentions podcast is a production of Skyterra Wellness. Special thanks to our executive producer, Alan Broyhill, who likes to stand down. Now, see, that's what I get. Who likes to sit down and stand up quite repeatedly. Send us your questions and comments to inspiredintentions@skyterrawellness.com. Review us, rate us, give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be found.
And if you're not feeling like it's going to be 5 stars, please just keep it to yourself.
Block it.
Block it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, don't shoot it. Block it.
Join us next week as we cut through the unrealistic noise on diets and fitness and show you how healthy living fits seamlessly into your already busy life. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.